Okay, so this is going to be our Unit 1 notes number 2, solving two-step equations. So our first set of notes, we were just doing one step. So we just did one step to solve the problem. This time we're going to be doing two steps. So some things are going to be similar and some things are going to be a little bit different. So first of all, we have our goal. Our goal always, whenever we are solving equations, is to get the variable by itself or isolate the variable. So we're going to get variable by itself. So what this means is we want to get the variable by itself on one side of the equal sign. Or we could say we isolate the variable. Okay, so yesterday we just had to do one operation in order to get the variable by itself. This time we're going to have two steps. So we're either going to have to undo addition and subtraction first, or we're going to have to undo multiplication and division. So it's always we're doing the inverse of order of operations. So we have to undo our addition and subtraction, and then we undo our multiplication and division. So first, you're going to undo addition or subtraction. And then after you do undo your addition or subtraction, you're then going to undo your multiplication or division. Or division. So let's kind of go over what our inverse operations are. If we're undoing addition, we're going to use subtraction. If we're undoing subtraction, we're going to use addition. If we're undoing multiplication, we're going to do division. If we're undoing division, we're going to do multiplication. So basically, these are the opposite operations we use to get that variable by itself. Okay, so let's go down to the bottom and let's do a couple examples. So it says solve for the variable for each equation. So I'm going to look at this first one. I have 2x plus 6 equals 10. So we can see that there's two things now not allowing this x to be by itself. There's this 2 and there's this 6. So the 2 is being held to this x by multiplication. And then the 6 is being held by addition. So if we remember, whenever we started, we said first we need to undo our addition and subtraction. So we want to get this 6 away from this 2x. So I'm going to draw my line down my equal sign, because what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. And the opposite of addition is subtraction, so I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. This leaves me with 2x still on this side, so I'm going to bring that down. Equals 10 minus 6 is going to give me 4. Now I have 2x equals 4. So I have to think of what is holding 2 and x together. That's multiplication, so the opposite is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Because I have to do it to both sides. You cannot just do it to one side. So you're going to get x equals 2. I have gotten my variable by itself. I've gotten it to one side of the equal sign. So that is my final answer. Okay, go on to number 2. We have 3y minus 4 equals 16. So I'm going to draw my line down my equal sign, because what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. And remember, you want to do undo addition and subtraction first, and then leave division or multiplication to the end. So I need to get rid of this negative 4 first. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Still have 3y, so I'm going to bring that down. And then I have negative 16 and positive 4. I'm going to subtract them and keep the sign on the bigger number. So 16 minus 4 is going to give me 12. And since there's a negative on that bigger number, that means that negative stays with it. And then my last step is I need to get y by itself. Y is it's not by itself because of that 3, which is being held to the y by multiplication. So I need to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. I cannot just do it to one side. I have to do it to both sides. My 3's cancel, and I'm left with y equals negative 12 divided by 3 is going to give us a negative 4. And that is my final answer. Okay, going on to the next one. I have 4x plus 20 equals 16. So I want you to think, what's my first step? If you said I need to move the 20 first, that is correct. So remember, if it's held there by addition, what's the opposite? And that would be subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 20. I'm left with 4x on this side, so don't forget about that 4x because we haven't done anything with it. So 16 minus 20 is going to give you a negative 4. And then my next step to get x by itself, I need to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by a positive 4. I don't know why I put a negative 4 in front of that one. 4. So negative 4 divided by a positive 4 is going to give me negative 1. Okay, let's do the next 3 examples. So this one is I kind of threw this one in here just for you guys to think, what is my first step going to be if there's parentheses? So if you guys remember, kind of pull out some of that knowledge from previous grades. If we ever have a number next to parentheses, we have to distribute. Whenever we just say distribute, we multiply. So 2 times x is 2x. 2 times a positive 6 is a positive 12. Now, we just distribute it to the left side. We don't distribute it across the equal sign. So now this problem should look a little bit more familiar. So we have to get that 12 over first. So we do the opposite of addition, which is subtraction. We're left with 2x equals 16 minus 12 is going to give us 4. And then our last step is to divide both sides by 2. So we get x equals 4 divided by 2 is going to give us 2. So that one just added a little bit. That's actually more than a little of a 2-step, but I figured you guys should be okay with distributing. So that's as hard as we're going to get for our 2-step. Okay, next problem, we have negative 2y plus 10. So I'm going to draw my line. I need to undo addition and subtraction first. So I need to undo that positive 2 by doing a negative 10. That cancels. I'm left with negative 2y, a negative 20, and a negative 10. Add them and keep your sign. So it's 10 plus 20 is 30, and I keep that negative sign. So I'm going to get negative 30. And then my next step is to get that y by itself. To get that y, I got to divide by a negative 2. Do not forget, if there's a negative in front of that number, you have to keep it with it. Or else you wouldn't divide out that negative, which would give you a negative y, which is not a positive y. Negative 2. So I'm going to get y equals negative 30 divided by negative 12. They're both negative, so it becomes positive. It's going to be a positive 15. Okay, last problem for this page. We have negative 3x minus 6 equals negative 15. So I want you to think, what's my first step? Do we divide out the negative 3 or do we add the 6 first? If you said add the 6, you are correct because we want to undo our addition and subtraction. So we get negative 3x equals negative 15 and positive 6. They're different signs, so we subtract and keep the sign on the bigger number. 15 minus 6 is going to give you 9. Negatives on the 15, which is the bigger number, so it's going to be a negative 9. Then we got to get that x by itself. We have to divide out negative 3. If you divide out a positive 3, you will not get the right answer yet. Negative 9 divided by negative 3 is going to give you a positive 3. Okay, that is the first page. We're going to go on to the second page, which is justification of steps. So basically, it's what we've been doing. We are just going to explain what that step is, and we added one more than compared to what we had yesterday. Okay, so 4x plus 8. Your first step should be to add 8 to both sides. So if you remember from yesterday, we're going to get 4x equals 28. If we do it to both sides, there's a certain word we have to use, which is property of equality. So this is going to be, since we added, addition, property of equality. It's equality because we did it to both sides. Now, our next step, since we still have to get x by itself, is we have to divide both sides by that 4. And then we get 28 divided by 4 is 7, so x equals 7. So we got our variable by itself. So that last step right here is we divided on both sides. We did it on both sides, so it's going to be division. And if you remember, we can abbreviate property of equality to be POE. Okay, let's go to example 2. What's our first step? We're going to add 6 to both sides. We get negative 3y equals 9. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. So what did I do to both sides? I added. So we're going to do addition, POE. And then our next step is we want to get that y by itself, so we're going to have to divide by negative 3 on both sides. We're going to get y equals negative 3 as my answer. So that last step was division, POE. So it's actually the same as we did for the first example. Okay, let's go down to the bottom. I am going to go through these pretty quick. Hopefully you guys have a good idea of this. If you don't, you can always pause this video and watch it a little bit slower, because you will have to do these problems on your homework. So our first step to get that x by itself, I'm going to subtract 16 from both sides. So we're going to get negative 3x equals negative 12. So I subtract them and keep the sign on the bigger number. So what I did on that first step was subtraction. Property of equality. Next step, I have to divide by negative 3 on both sides. Negative divided by negative is a positive, so I'm going to get x equals a positive 4. So what I did to both sides was I divided, so division. POE, since I did it to both sides. Okay, last one. There's just one step on this one, you guys. Divide by 2. So I get y equals negative 7. So this one only has one step, which is division, POE. Okay, let me know if you guys have any questions on this.